Hi, everyone, and welcome to Web Samurai TV. This is our interview of Isaac Patka, founder of Shield3, but I'm pretty sure that Isaac is going to tell us wonderful thing about this company. So let's get started with this interview. Hi, Isaac. The first question I have for you today is, could you please introduce yourself and tell us more about your lifestyle, passion, and hobbies?
Sure. As you said, I'm Isaac. I guess I'm primarily a developer in the Web3 space. I have been for 6 or 7 years, maybe more now. Before that, before I kind of jumped into the crypto space, I was a electrical engineer with a more traditional career in the semiconductor space. I was working in a laser research lab, and I just got started spending my evenings doing some random coding projects, and I started learning about what was happening in the blockchain space. I had always been very much like a skeptic, or didn't see much value in the space as a whole, but I started just having a lot of fun diving into the security side of smart contracts, what it means to be able to program money and stuff, and just started doing a lot of projects like that, and it quickly took over my entire professional life very soon after. Besides that, I don't live in like a big city hub, so I don't live in like a big tech hub. So I kind of have a different exposure, I think, to the tech space to folks that live in like San Francisco or in New York City and stuff like that. So I mainly meet people that I do projects with online and start working with them, and then eventually get to meet them in person. And I very much enjoy meeting the folks that I've met on the internet and in person, and building relationships and hacking on projects together. And then outside of that, I live in a house with dogs. I tend to have what I call a full-time hobby at a time. So I sometimes it's music, sometimes it's like language learning, sometimes it's just playing video games. But I tend to flip between various what I call full-time hobbies, where if I'm not working, I'm trying to improve or enjoy some other aspect of my life.
Great. And what is the hobby of the moment?
So I'm almost, I think I might be in between hobbies. I spent the last year focusing on language learning. I spent the 6 months to a year before that trying to relearn piano and stuff like that. But it always takes some sort of moment of inspiration or something to be okay, this is what I'm going to dedicate the next 6 months to a year of my non-working life to. So I have some interesting travel coming up, and I'm hoping that I have one of these things that sparks okay, here's my new here's my new crazy hobby for the next year.
The next question is really general, and like I said, we want to emphasize human of the internet, and I would love for you to touch more maybe on your vision of the world.
And this actually coincides a bit with why I'm actually interested in the blockchain space, because what I've found in traveling and working with folks from all over the world, assumptions that we have are living in these developed countries like the US or in France, the assurances we have from the government, the kind of safety, the things that we take for granted are very much not possible to take for granted all over the world. So I just view as I get older and as I learn more, my vision of the world, it becomes clear just how many inequalities there are based on where you're born, based on who's in charge, based on everything like that. And kind of everything that I try to focus on tech-wise is about trying to reduce those inequalities, break down artificial borders and barriers, and work towards a future like that.
So now I think it's time for us to dive a bit more into your profession, and maybe, I like this kind of question, which is, if you had to explain your job to a 5-year-old, how would you explain your job?
Yeah, well, I think some aspects of what I do are easier to explain to a kid than others. I kind of have 3 main things that I spend my time on. One is, and 2 of them are part of the company that we mentioned, Shield3. And so one of the things we do that I think is very interesting and potentially relatable for a kid is we do these things called drills. And so they're kind of akin to if kids do fire drills at school. The reason why you do fire drills at a school is so that you, in an emergency, you know where to go. People aren't panicking. It's not like the first time you've ever heard the alarm. And what we do in the crypto space for a lot of companies is we basically set up these drills where everything is going wrong. There's some sort of chaos that has been introduced, and they have to figure out how to follow their procedures and go through the motions to put the pieces back together and communicate and work together to solve a problem. In the crypto space, that's of course not generally an actual fire, but it's very related. Like pilots practice, like knowing where the switches are if their plane goes into a nosedive or something bad happens. Like kids practice leaving a building in a fire when it's not a real fire, and we kind of help companies practice what to do when disaster strikes, as it so often does in this industry.
So you will say that you are a fireman, or that you're training firemen?
Yeah, I'd say I'm like a trainer. So I get, well, also almost like a game master also. So I get to design these chaos scenarios, get to really dig into what can possibly go wrong, and set up almost a game or a scenario that should be stressful, but should also potentially be a little bit fun. And so, yeah, I guess I'm a trainer / game master in the space.
Nice. And now can you explain it to an adult? Because I guess I hope some 5-year-olds are going to listen to this podcast, but mostly adults are going to listen to this podcast.
To just go deeper in on this project, there's kind of two aspects to it. It's specifically in the crypto space, and specifically in the financial side of it, there is a lot of just open infrastructure, like open source infrastructure around how money moves, and that can just be simple things about how tokens are issued, like stable currencies which are backed by government currencies are issued, how those get deposited into like blockchain based savings account, investing tools, lending, borrowing products. And the nature of blockchain is that it's so wide open that attacks can really come from anywhere. I mean, that's true in banks too. Like a bank can be attacked, but they tend to have at least some idea of like, this is our network walls of our bank, and we have to make sure that traffic is like only valid things happening and there's not fraud happening. But in the crypto space, there's not really the concept of like the protected network. It's like all kind of out in the wild. What often happens is like a hack will happen in the middle of the night. Like somebody figures out a way to exploit one of these like lending, saving, investing products. And then the whole team has to get on the phone. Maybe they're all over the world and they have to wake people up and say, oh, how do we respond to this? Do we have to figure out a way to like pause this like lending protocol to make sure that people don't lose all of their money? And these things they're never planned. Like they come up, then you get a page on your phone and then you instantly have to go into a war room. And so this is a very stressful experience for people. And so one of the things that we do is just create these scenarios for them to practice that training. And on the other side of our business, what we do is we create a lot of tools to make it so that we ideally never get to those scenarios. And so we help that people put in processes in place for consumer protection, security, compliance, and stuff like that. But we also think it's important to train people on how to respond when things go poorly.
I'm glad there are some people working on that in the Web3 space, and thank you for this very clear explanation. I would love to dive into something maybe a bit more general about your job, which is, what do you like in your job? What makes you happy about getting up in the morning and turning up the computer and working on these chaos scenarios?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of the variety and also the just the caliber and passion of the folks that I get to work with. So a lot of this work that I've been talking about around the chaos is part of this thing, which is soon to be announced, or might have already been announced, called the Web3 Security Alliance, or SEAL. And so this is a group that was started to be organized like loosely through various like security researchers and auditors and even like hackers that are benevolent hackers that try to rescue money during scenarios and claim it from the claws of the malicious hackers. So there's this group of, I think I met them over the summer. I met one of the women that started it at DWebCamp also, which was a big turning point for a lot of things. It's this group of people that are just trying to pool resources, create initiatives around how can we create like open infrastructure for like whether it's legal infrastructure, technology infrastructure. And just what I love is that all of the people that I get to work with on this stuff are just very like generous and open and smart, and the ability to just like work with these folks without barriers. Like we don't have to go through all these like crazy long processes of creating partnerships and aligning interests and figuring out all stuff like that. It's just people that show up and want to help. And often figure out how to make sure that it's sustainable for everybody. So that's what I love about this space, is that like kind of open permissionless collaboration, where we don't have to deal with we most of the time don't have to deal with like annoying legal agreements and partnerships.
That's actually super interesting. I didn't know about the Web3 Security Alliance, so I guess it's very new. I will be glad actually to maybe host, a Web3 Security Alliance podcast or something like that. I think it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Of initiative are starting to blossom in the field, and it's definitely going to bring more trust that is needed in a trustless environment. Great. I think my next question will be if you could present actually a concrete project that you're working on at the moment and you are passionate about.
Sure. If I may, I'll present a project that the Alliance is working on. That I've been tangentially involved with. I've been doing these drills side of the Security Alliance, but one of the things that that they are announcing is something called the White Hat Safe Harbor Agreement. It's a legal agreement that was put together by a bunch of crypto lawyers and also traditional internet security people to create a system of protection for people that hack a crypto protocol, but not for bad reasons. And that's I know that's a little confusing, but there's an example of in the last year, a bridge which is responsible for moving cryptocurrencies between different blockchains was discovered to have a bug. And immediately, it seems like half of the internet found out about this bug at the same time, and they could basically go in and withdraw a bunch of money for free. And they just started draining it. So they were draining tens of millions of dollars from this blockchain. And at the same time, there was a group of people that were trying to also do it, but do it before the bad actors could do it, because their intention was to steal the money, but then return it to its rightful owner. But that puts people into jeopardy often, because if let's say that the protocol says, well, no, you were one of the hackers, we're totally going to sue you and you're going to jail. And they say, no, I was doing it as a good person. I was trying to give it back to you. That's kind of a hard argument to make after the fact legally. And so the goal of this agreement is to get a lot of people in the crypto industry to agree on standards for how you could safely do that. So the fact that the protocol has to have a legal agreement in place ahead of time that says, okay, if you follow these procedures, you send us an email that says, hey, I'm hacking you now, but don't worry, I'll give the money back to you. And then you do give the money back, we'll pay you a portion of that as a fee for your services. And also we promise not to sue you. And so it's this legal protection for people that are trying to keep the space safe, and also provide them the assurance that they can act this way and not be confused for the people that are actually trying to steal money and for their own wallets.
That's impressive. Great project, protecting the white hacker. What exactly is your role in building up this project? And it's also a segue to my next question, which is, what is impact to you? So I guess a project like that has a lot of impact on the industry, but also on people in the Web3 space generally being protected by this hacker. So what is your role in this project, and how is this impactful, and what is impact to you?
So I'm a member of, I'd say a different project in the same, this is not a huge group, so it's probably 50 or so people. I've been leading one of the other initiatives, but I've had a lot of chance to talk to the folks that are leading the White Hat Safe Harbor Agreement, and had a chance to review it and provide some feedback over throughout the time that they've been working on it. My role related to that project, and the impact, I think has a wide ranging impact, both primary and then also beyond that. The primary impact is that if you're a security researcher, here's a way for you to perhaps earn money by helping to protect the space, and also not go to jail by doing what you do. And a secondary is that if we are actually trying to build this kind of open, borderless, permissionless financial infrastructure that has equal access to everyone in the whole world, no matter where you're from, if we want that to actually be a stable and reliable financial infrastructure, we have to figure out the incentives to make sure that it is kept safe and secure, and not just constantly hacked. Because if we're trying to convince people that this is a safer alternative to using the traditional financial system, or it's safer to use this in combination with the traditional financial system, we have to demonstrate how we're also trying to make it resilient and safe for the people that are involved. And it's not, if somebody loses their life savings, that's not something we can just say, oh, oops, no one's in charge here in crypto land, so sorry, that sucks for you. We have to actually figure out how to hold people accountable and incentivize people to keep the system secure. To me, the impact is related to not just, I mean, I often like just kind of trying to build fun technology, but like that is not that's not impact. That's like impact on myself of like I can be satisfied having built something cool. But impact is like seeing how what we build can change the lives of people in other countries, people in this country, change what people have access to with how they can create their own companies, create their own innovations, like find employment and make payments easier. To me, the impact of this space is on how we're actually solving the things that are broken in the traditional system, rather than just trying to create a bunch of tech companies that do cool work and just kind of reinforce the same old system. Impact would be about how we can, how different and how much better can we actually make the tech and internet and financial internet environment.
I wish I had given that answer, Isaac. That's a great one. My next question, you were talking about former system of the internet, newer system in the internet, not replicating the same mistakes. So I guess, a lot of people are talking about Web3, and you are obviously a main actor in the Web3 space. But what to you is Web3? How could you define simply for someone in the audience that never really understand what is it?
I'd say that like when I joined this space, I didn't actually understand the significance of what Web 1 and Web 2 were. Like I was not a internet developer. I was like an electrical engineer. So I actually only learned a couple of years ago probably what Web 2 meant really. But to me, the idea of Web 3 is like a return to the original open ideals of an open, decentralized internet where it's accessible to everyone. There's not a bunch of gatekeepers. It's censorship resistant. You can have free and open access to information. Those were a lot of the ideals of the early internet. And Web3 to me like reinforces those ideals of like open and permissionless and censorship resistant access, plus the ability to program money. And that might seem trivial to people because they're like, okay, I mean, I can get a Stripe account and add like payments to my eShop, but it's so much more than that. It's the ability to program like value the same way that we program information. And so the way that we like built the internet became a place for open access to information. If we can make it a place where like value flows more freely without having to go through just like centralized providers that just move money in our bank accounts behind the scenes, it can create a significantly more, I think, open and innovative world for how value moves online and between people and between countries. The same way that now we have information that flows freely between people and countries.
It's complicated to be a prophet, but if you really try hard and imagine what Web3 will be in the upcoming years, what will it be? And I will be very interested in if you could cover both the utopian side that you briefly touch on, but also the totally freaky dystopian side that it might become.
So one thing I think will happen is that crypto will become less and less of an island on the internet, where it's like disconnected from traditional systems and people see it as like an alternative to the traditional financial system. And I think more and more it will like just integrate and fade into the background. I think people will welcome that, like people in the public who just like don't care about hearing about what's going on with crypto and blockchain and speculation and stuff. Ideally, it just makes their life easier by making like money movement easier, by making like access to resources on the internet easier. So I guess my utopian view for crypto is that people stop talking as much about crypto, weirdly, where it just becomes like something that powers like open access, and it's not something that you don't have to be a fan of crypto. Like I don't have to be a fan of like like an internet protocol that moves my data around. Like I don't have to like wear a shirt or like talk about how much I love like the TCP/IP protocol. It's just like I'm grateful for it because it gets me access to all the websites I care about. But ideally, crypto becomes something that is less of a huge, like with diehard camps and people that like look at it like a religion, and more of just something that is, powering the stuff we care about. I guess the dystopian view is that there are some things that are worse about using crypto than normal internet services. And people are working on making this better, but I'd say one of the main things is the potential impact on privacy. And so if all of your financial activity is somehow tied to like all of the other actions you're doing online, like not only can like advertisers and people that are tracking things on the internet find out all the information about you, but they can also see exactly what you're spending money on. And like the fact that there's not really a core assumption of privacy in crypto, like kind of by default, because things are open and transparent, potentially could lead to systems where we have less freedom because everything's just like open and out there. And I'm encouraged by a lot of the people that are working on systems to change this, whether it's through just like obscuring what's going on online or potentially like making it completely anonymous and but also at the same time compliant with regulations and stuff. So there is a lot of activity there, but I worry that like if we are not able to sufficiently bake in like the freedoms to information privacy, then I think the world with crypto is probably has the potential to be worse than where we are at the moment.
Yes, but as you said, there are also some techniques and some solutions that exist today to make sure that obfuscation exists. But I really that your utopia basically involve no more crypto growth, and that's. So yeah, could you just what you just said about the dystopian part and the necessary obfuscation of transaction and the tension between transparency and privacy? It was not supposed to be a question, but could you just touch on for the audience very simply on like some of the techniques that exist today to prevent that from happening, like the dystopia that you described?
Like if you do transactions on Ethereum, most people use just like one or a few addresses for all of their activity, and they might even like tie it to something that's associated with their name. Like I'm one of these people. I'm not very good at crypto privacy for myself, and so like my address where like my wallet is, like it's like tied to my full first and last name. Maybe that was not a mistake, but if you go and like you type in my full name .eth on a website called Etherscan, which shows you the entire history of the Ethereum blockchain, you can see probably like a few hundred transactions that I've done over the years, like things I've bought, times that I've like had a friend pay me back for an Airbnb in crypto, and like you can just see that, and that's forever going to be there. Like that is privacy that I've given up forever. There's no taking that back. There's other techniques for at least like trying to obscure things. And so there was this service that a lot of people used called Tornado Cash. And what that did is it like mixed all of your money together with other people's money. And then what came out on the other end was like a fresh address that had no history. And then all you would see if I used Tornado Cash was like, I was paid at some point or I earned some crypto this way. I deposited it into this like privacy service. And then who knows what happened? Like at somewhere on the other end, I started using that money again. But you can't make that link. The problem with that was that people were using it to also obfuscate their illegal activity. So whether they were like hacked a big crypto protocol and earned tens of millions of dollars, they would use that same tool that perhaps I wanted to use just to kind of like break the link between me getting paid for the project and then me buying some, I don't know, NFT somewhere, or like sending money to a friend, or maybe even sending money to cash out to my bank account. Like I just wanted to break that link for some reason. That became illegal because there was no way to prove that when you got money out, if you were the dirty money in. So if the hacked money came into the same pool, it's now contaminated money. I think that that's a valid concern. But there are folks that are trying to build similar systems and have built similar systems where you can provably demonstrate that your money was not mixed with like dirty illegal money. Like there's systems where you can say, okay, we have to all agree that like if we 50 or 100 people are putting money into the privacy service, we have to do some like background vetting on these people to make sure that we're not letting like hacker money come in. And then the money that comes out on the other end, you still don't know who exactly it came from, but you can at least say, hey, it didn't come from breaking a law or violating an international sanction or something like that. And so that's like one possible alternative, is like we can use these like privacy mixing services, but proving that the money didn't come from bad sources. But then there's also blockchains that just have like privacy completely built in, like Monero or Zcash are these coins where they have their own potential issues, but basically nobody has any idea how much money anybody else has because everything is private unless somebody like reveals or chooses to reveal it.
Thank you so much, Isaac. I'm pretty sure it will be very useful for some part of the audience. The idea here is not to get people frightened by the dystopia. It's showing that dystopia is a possible side on the horizon, but people yourself and other people in the industry are actually working hard for making the utopia, which is no more crypto bros, happen, and not just not the way around. I was just joking. My next question will be, I will ask you maybe to become a very wise grandpa with a white beard and tell me if you had an advice to give to the youth, what it would be for the upcoming years.
This would, I guess, be true if they were interested in a career similar to what I've been working on, but also true in other parts of the internet or technology or even any other industry. And it's just that, like, find places where you can just kind of show up and without anybody's permission start making contributions. Like, I see so many people that are at the start of their career getting very stressed about like padding their resume and applying to the perfect job and like getting accepted into some big company that's going to like nurture them and give them a great opportunity. And I found that like it's much more efficient to use that effort to just find something that you care about or a thing that that people are working on that you can just kind of show up and start doing things and then get recognized. So, I mean, that's kind of what I was talking about earlier with related to like why I like my job is like I can just show up to a place and start like whether for me it's like contributing code, but other people can contribute the fact that they can like help organize things, organize projects, and you can just slowly build up trust and prove that you're a reliable person. And I find that is often the better successful path, perhaps into that same company that you were applying to. Like perhaps that same company that you would have put in all this effort into like building up your resume and having the perfect interview. If you can just make them want you by doing cool stuff related to what they care about, they'll come to you and offer you the great job. So yeah, I'd say don't waste a bunch of time doing like interviews and resumes, and just do work that you care about.
That's a beautiful advice. So my next question will be, who do you admire and who inspire you in the tech industry or maybe in the world today?
There's a couple of people that I met a couple of years ago named like Songi and Yosef, and I met them at like a DAO event, and I found out just their history of like just working with communities in Africa and actually all around the world, of like kind of just always trying to push the boundaries of like making it so that like crypto payments infrastructure is actually working for people in local communities, whether that's like trying to put Bitcoin wallets on like really cheap old mobile phones to make it so that people can just pay each other, like always trying to like take this technology that we're all talking about and doing and like testing it on the ground with the people that it could actually help, and helping them understand how to use these tools to create their own opportunities, to create their own innovations, and not like wait for some company to kind of come in and say that we've solved the problem of X or solved the problem of Y. But there are a couple of people that I've just met over the years that are like put this into practice and like don't waste a lot of time on the evangelizing side and really just go into communities and try to make a difference and learn what's working and learn what's not working.
If you would recommend someone to get invited to this interview, whom will it be?
An interesting conversation would be the SAFE ecosystem. Like it was called Gnosis Safe, and now it's just Safe. It's its own thing. It's this like protocol, not company protocol. It's a DAO, but like it's this infrastructure that the entire Ethereum space uses, and like they basically created this tool years ago, and they've been improving on it, which allows which makes it easier to like manage accounts with multiple signers, with your own signer, to just kind of make it easier to and more accessible to use crypto products with additional degrees of safety and programmability and modularity. It'd be hard to say that they're like a quiet part because people know about them, but I feel like it's this like massive. People talk about how to make crypto more accessible and improve the user experience and stuff. And to me, like the answer is right there. Is like we already have this tool that a vast majority of the space uses, and we can like make it more modular and easy to use. And over the summer, they announced something about how like they're making it so that you can actually like pay in a store with a credit card and money just like moves from your on-chain wallet automatically. Like they're doing, I think, an incredible amount of innovation in that space. I like the people in that ecosystem. So I would enjoy hearing the interview with them.
You don't know who's the next interviewee, obviously, but if you had a question to pass along to the next interviewee, what will it be?
How do you balance accessibility and like decentralization in tech.
What would you do if you can travel back to, I don't know, the birth of the internet? Would you change something, and what?
This is a very interesting question.
Yeah.
I just think about the challenges that the internet's having now, which is related to kind of like censorship and neutrality and stuff like that. And if there was something that could have been changed on a protocol level to make it easier for people to more directly access the internet and stuff without having to go through the gatekeepers that have had to exist just to make it possible. That could be interesting, but maybe that's technologically not possible. Like routing of information is very difficult. Perhaps some system related to the security of the internet, like we have like secure encrypted traffic as a standard that came later, and I think that's fine because basically everybody's adopted it. But yeah, maybe just like a focus on like the permissionless nature of it, and I know that it was built that way initially, but I think that like anything to kind of reinforce or make it impossible to remove these like kind of open protections from the internet and make it so that we can never get to a state where it's all something that is controlled by centralized parties. That would be cool. But I don't know. I think they did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
I use the internet like all the time.
Last question, but not the least. Would you dare to join us if we actually created a DAO for this podcast?
Yeah, it highly depends on what the DAO is doing, because I've had a lot of experiences in the last years of like DAOs that shouldn't have been DAOs. So DAOs are good for some things. They're good for like managing things that are purely on chain, managing financial assets. But if it's something like operations of a company, curating stuff, I found that like a traditional company is often better because and DAOs have like complications. So I guess my answer is it depends on what you want the DAO to do, and I'm happy to.
Actually, it will be pretty simple. The idea, it will be for people like you and I to actually join in and recommend people for next interview, because we want people to reflect the diversity of the internet. So at one point, we'll have some bias in the people we invite. So we wanted more diverse crowd to come in. And the idea will be to have some incentivization token to actually recommend people, and the more valuable people you recommend, the more token you get. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, maybe this isn't the answer you want, but I think it's not a great, I actually haven't seen that work really well in the past. And like the best curation that I've seen is when there's like somebody who is making those decisions themselves and they have a vision of like the type of people that they want, and they take recommendations from people, but they don't actually make their decision a democratic vote. Yeah, I think it's important for any sort of kind of creative endeavor, something to maintain some level of benevolent dictatorship. So perhaps a role for like voting and curation, but I think that you should always have some sort of dictator who makes the final decision.
Isaac, I think we're going to end on the benevolent dictator side. Thanks so much for joining in this podcast. It was a real pleasure to have you. And let's hopefully talk soon about the next project you will be working on.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me.